Is that
All
all right
right.
with you?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
All right, Dan. I don't know if we know what we're doing yet, but welcome everybody. We've got Dan Vanille here with WordPress Video. You know, the Lord Lofton, and Dan and I hooked up. We've kind of indirectly known each other for a long time, although we've never personally met, right?
That's right.
Um,
Until
a
until a couple of weeks ago. Yeah.
couple of weeks ago, and in that conversation, we were kicking around some ideas of working together, and I mentioned 2 or 3 different ways of doing it. And in the context of talking about 2 or 3 different ways of doing it, I said something about maybe us doing a show together. And fortunately for you guys, Dan jumped on it and said, and he told me a great story. Retirement, what's it called? Your friend
Oh,
said
retireaholics. Yeah.
Retireaholics. So
So
if you haven't seen
yeah, that's
Retireaholics, go look it up. Tell us about that.
yeah. Retireaholics is J.D. Carlson is second generation of Plan Design Associates, which is a third party administrator for 401k plans, and he's a younger guy, ex pro surfer, and he happens to
Although
be.
he still looks like a surfer.
Yeah, he does. Long hair and a beard. I mean, he looks like his picture on LinkedIn looks like a mugshot. But he's a great guy, wonderful company. His sales manager is my son-in-law's brother. And my son-in-law and JD are best of friends. And so I've known JD for a long time. But this Retireaholics is I guess a weekly thing that they do. Plan design company, this 401k plan administrator. And they're kind of the sales guys and JD, and they sit around and they have beers, very casual environment, and they talk about the 401k market, and they talk about variations on 401k and the legal issues and the compliance issues and the sales issues and the funding issues. And they have a few laughs and they engage people in the show through the phone or through online. And it's been a super success. People seem to love it. They're a little bit irreverent, but it's entertaining, it's fun, and it's hugely informational. And I think that's what Lloyd and I would like to emulate if we can.
Well, I watched them for the first time last week. And what I got from them, besides some great information, but just their style and personality and the whole flavor of it, reminded me of my combined insurance company days, where with combined, I would leave town. I lived in St. Charles, Missouri, and I would leave town on Sunday, and each week I would go to a different town. So we would drive. I would go in, check into a hotel on Sunday night. Monday morning, we would all meet in some restaurant. We'd stand up and give our goal for the day, and then we'd go out and go door to door. And at night, we always finished at 8 o'clock, and a bunch of us would always meet at some bar or some place along there, and we would have
Right.
great stories of the day. And
Yeah.
and we painted some of our customers very colorfully when they were rude to us, and we talked to them
Yeah.
like young, cocky, full of yourself salespeople did at the time,
Yeah.
and that's what these guys kind of remind me of. Like I wanted to
Yeah.
be sitting there on the couch with them because that's the kind of conversation that I used to have, years ago. So, if you get your feelings hurt, you might not be as comfortable there. But what I would tell you to do is set your ego aside and listen in and listen for the golden nuggets that you get out of it to make your thing better. So that's when we were talking about doing this. Um, it reminds me, it takes me back to when I was with Physicians Mutual. I wasn't with them for very long. And it's not because I couldn't sell insurance, but they wanted me to do something I had never done before. This is like in the late 90s or 2000 or something like that. And I'm a door to door guy. I mean, my whole career was spent going door to door, business to business, home to home. I was a door to door guy. And at that time, Physicians Mutual was moving to get telemarket leads. And so they wanted you to sit on the phone and make phone calls, which I thought that's the craziest thing in the world. I make my money sitting in front of customers selling. What the heck? What do you mean I'm going to take my time out of the field, straight commission, to sit on a phone and call your crappy leads? Are you out of your mind?
Yeah.
But I was an agent. So my manager's
Yeah.
standing in front of the room saying, well, this is the only way you make money here at Physician Mutual. And I'm sitting there nodding my head thinking, you are a freaking moron, and I'm never doing that. So
Yeah.
I did it. I finally kind of figured it out. And I feel like in a little bit, this is what we're doing right now, right?
Yeah, trying to figure it out.
Yeah, so we're trying to figure it out. So one of the things, if you're watching this, if you watch it live, or if you watch the recording of it, either on LinkedIn or my Facebook group or the YouTube channel, type in there whatever topics you think you would like to get some information on. So whether it's how to make phone calls, handle objections, get in front of prospects. I mean, it's one of the things I'll tell you, and it's one of the things I like about what Dan does. It's actually 2022. I mean, a lot of agents and advisors don't get the concept. It's actually 2022.
Right.
And if you go, and over the next few weeks, we're going to talk about a lot of the stuff. But if you go online right now and you ask, what is the most read or interactive social media medium right now? Just type that in Google. Shorten the sentence up if you want to. And what you find is video.
Yeah.
So wouldn't it be great if somebody actually put together some quality videos around the problems that the consumers have? Oh, wait a minute. What if you
Hey,
had
we
some
do that.
quality videos?
We do that.
I'm trying to set you up, man. Okay. Don't take the bait so quickly. What if you could actually set it up in a way where the agent could send those videos to prospects? Oh, and then wait a minute. And then you actually notify the agent that a prospect watched the video you just sent them. I think Dan does that. See how
Yes, Dan does that. Right. Well, I think that's it's interesting that you said this is 2022, and things are certainly different than, both you and I are approaching 70 now, and we've been in the sales game for close to 50 years. So what we learned 50 years ago.
Scary to think about that.
Yeah. So a lot of what we've learned 50 years ago is not applicable today. Not only that, but there are things that we've done 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, that are trending differently today. And many of you who are watching, if you're familiar with WebPres videos or familiar with my background, my educational background is in behavioral psychology and cognitive science or communication science. And so I'm constantly learning about what the latest clinical studies and research indicate in terms of how consumers and different types of consumers in different markets are responding to advertising offers and buying opportunities and salespeople and non-salespeople. So we glean a lot of information, which of course we incorporate into our video system. But more importantly, what I think Lloyd and I want to do in this venue is, this virtual venue, is to kind of share with you what's changing, what's affecting your profession as a salesperson, as an insurance or a financial security or retirement, financial planning salesperson. Your ability to develop relationships, cultivate those relationships into long-term buying relationships, get the most money out of that client without being, what's the word I'm looking for, Lloyd? Without, without being greedy, really taking care of the client, because that's something that never goes out of style. It was important 50 years ago and it's important today. If you treat your prospect with respect and care, and you really listen to them, I mean, that's always been sort of the most difficult thing for salespeople to do, is shut up and listen. Or more importantly, and what Lloyd and I are really good at and really going to share with you, is how to ask the right questions. And I think that if you get nothing out of listening to us once a week, you're going to learn some techniques. You're going to learn some questions or some lines of questioning that is going to make your job not only easier and more productive, but more fun. Would you agree, Lloyd?
Yeah, and so you said one thing I want to comment on. So we're going to be doing this every week. Right now, we're looking at Fridays at 11:30 Eastern time, but we're not married to it. So if you're watching this on a recording on any of the platforms I mentioned, Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn, type in the chat box and just suggest a day and time on it. But I would take it a little bit kind of a step forward from that, and that is that when we talk about, I call it wallet share. When we talk about wallet share with prospects, one of the things that the baby boomer generations taught us, and if you go back and look at the history of the baby boomer generation, that is the most studied market
Yeah,
in the history of the world.
right.
We know more about what the seniors from the baby boomer generation have gone through and will go through than any market out there. So the baby boomer generation is 1946 to 1964. They all came back from World War II at the same time. They bought houses at the same time. Levitt Homes was the first subdivision that was ever built up in New Jersey. They bought homes at the same time. They had kids. They bought cribs and diapers and tricycles. They put their kids through elementary school, junior high, high school. They went through all this at the exact same time. And the irony is they're also going through retirement at the exact same time. So when I talk about wallet share, I'm talking about, and I always think of, as a door-to-door guy, I remember walking up to a house to knock on the door and them having a sign on the door saying no soliciting.
Right,
Like
right.
if you go into apartment complexes or office complexes. Now, W. Clement Stone taught us that no soliciting meant salespeople welcome. But
Yeah.
we just ignored those signs and went anyway. But if you go into a home or a business, or you work with a prospect with the intention of selling them a product, you might as well download a sign that says "Other salespeople welcome"
Right.
and give that to them as a giveaway, so they can put on their door to create a voice message for them that says, "Hi, this is Dan Vanel. If you're calling, I'm not in right now. But if you're a salesperson, leave your number and I'll call you back because I might have more needs."
Yeah.
So
Right.
wallet share means that you ask questions about the lifestyle issues that people go through, and that you recognize that their buying habits will change and their dominant buying motives and needs will change over time. And so that they see you as a subject matter expert, someone that they can trust and talk to and get resources from, not somebody that is going to sell them every time they talk to them. So wallet share means that you recognize that consumer that you're working with is a human being that has a family that they love, has a business that they care about, and throughout their life, they're going to have ups and downs and challenges just like you do in your business. And at every point in those ups and downs and challenges, they're going to be looking for an expert. And so it's not uncommon in this business. It's not uncommon, at least in my experience, that insurance agents and advisors in any industry, just about, you sell them a product and then you don't talk to them again for, like
Right.
until they call up to cancel, right?
Right.
And
Right.
then you want to know why they're canceling. Well, hell, I haven't talked to you in 3 years. That's why I'm
Yeah.
canceling, you moron.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I view this, what we're doing here, the same way you do. Part of my underlying goal here is to help all salespeople in any industry. You don't have to be from the financial uh, service industry, but in any industry, to build a better business. Because we're three things. All salespeople are three things. They don't recognize it. They don't realize it. Um, and frequently they push back and they try and avoid being one or more of these three things. So the first thing is you're a salesperson, right? But the second
Right.
thing is you're also a consumer.
Right.
And the way that your prospects buy are very similar to the way you buy. I mean, the decision-making process they go through and the experiences they go through are are pretty similar. So you're a salesperson, you're a business, you're a consumer, and the third thing you better be is a businessman
Business
or
person.
a business person.
Right.
And so being a business person involves a lot of different skill sets than just being a salesperson. And that's one of the things that I'm hoping that we can lay a foundation for. If nothing else, here's what happens. People talk from their frame of reference and people hear from their frame of reference. So sometimes you're going to be on our weekly call and you're going to think, but that, and here's what human beings tend to do, right, Dan? We tend to listen to rule things out and not rule them in.
Right.
So some of you
Yes.
have already listened and said, "Oh yeah, oh, I wouldn't do that. I already know that." And then you get that buzzword, and you go, "Oh." And I've had salespeople do that. I've had salespeople that have been in sales for 40 years not want to come to one of my live classes, and their manager makes them come. And on a break or at the end of the class, they come up and say, "I used to do that.
Right.
I'm
Oh
really glad
yeah.
I came."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
as you're listening to this, the mind's like a parachute. It only works when it's open. So listen for the one or two things that you can do different in the next week, and then go do that different. And if we're
Yeah.
idiots on other stuff, well, we're an idiot. So what? You do stuff differently. We don't have to do things the way. My experience is I sell the way I sell. The people who buy from Lloyd may never buy from Dan or Bob or Frank or Tony. And the people that buy from Dan or Frank or Tony might not never buy from me.
Right.
But I can learn from other people. I can learn something, and what's going to happen to you? This inevitably, what's going to happen to you is you're going to get a nugget that you didn't know was a nugget. And 2 weeks from now, 2 months from now, you're going to be in that sales situation, and you're going to say something or do something, and you're going to recognize in the back of your mind, "Oh, I remember I heard that." And you're not even going to know that you were going to do it because it just became an integrated part of your personality. Something will click for you, but nothing's going to click if you don't come on and participate. That's a
Well,
long answer to your
no,
question.
but that's your last point is a really good one. That we want to make this. We want to engage our audience in the show. So we'll open the lines, so to speak. If you have questions or you have some feedback on something we're talking about, you want to participate in the conversation, then we're going to open that up, right? We'll find a way to do that.
Right. Yeah.
The other thing that you had mentioned, and I know that the average age of people in this industry is in the late 50s now, and we're having an issue in the industry bringing younger people in. I think that some companies are doing a better job in deliberately trying to solicit the college graduates and bring them in. But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Lloyd, do we want to focus on the retirement, estate planning, sales in that area, or do we also want to talk to agents who may be selling to younger people or doing financial planning for young families, or do we want to cover all of that?
From my perspective, I think that every salesperson should learn to uncover the problems that impact our prospects and be prepared to help them come up with a solution, which is a different concept than selling life insurance or mortgage insurance or retirement plans.
Yeah, agreed.
Life insurance, mortgage insurance, retirement plans, health insurance is a market.
Right.
Right. So if I'm selling annuities, for example, then I might want to go towards a certain profiled prospect that buys annuities, and that's a market I'm going to go after. If I'm and you have to do that because it's like when I work with new salespeople and I say, what do you want to do? Who do you want to work with? Who do you want to sell to? And they say, "Oh, I want to sell to women." Okay, well, like in
Yeah.
what way? Like what age group? Are they married? Are they career women? Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just want to help all women, or
Yeah.
I want to sell to small businesses. Well, what small business? I want to help all small businesses. Tell me how you're going to buy
Define
a
it.
lead for all small businesses. I mean,
Right.
unless you're going to like invent Google or something, you're probably not going to have the money to prospect all small businesses.
Right.
So maybe you want a small business owner in a particular SIC, that's the industry that they're in, a particular industry, they've been in business 2 years or longer, they gross 250,000 a year or more in business, they've got 2 to 5 employees, and they've been in business 2 years. Now you've got a profile of a client that you can go out and do a direct mail lead. You can use internet leads. You can prospect that particular profile of a prospect. The same thing like in the retirement market. You can go through and look at some of Dan's videos, and I've done this, and I can archive those videos out by market, and then I can find the lead copy I want to use to to prospect to those people, so that when they respond to the lead, I mean to the marketing that I'm doing, that it's consistent with the messaging they're going to get on the videos I'm going to send them.
So let
So
me ask
that's
you
a
this.
strategy that I'm going to put together.
Yeah, let me ask you this, Lloyd. I know you're doing a lot of coaching and you're talking to some very productive agents on a almost a daily basis, I think. So if somebody comes to you and they're sort of they're got a good business and they're selling annuities, um, and so in that market, they're selling typically to people over the age of 50, 55, and maybe up to age 70, 75, depending on what type of annuities. Um, and what do you tell them if the person they're meeting with is not immediately interested in annuity, but might be interested in Medicare or long-term care, or maybe leaving a legacy for their family? Um, if they're an annuity guy, how do you coach them once they're kind of committed to annuities, but they're in front of a prospect and they have an opportunity, but not for an annuity?
That's a good question, and that happens a lot of times with agents. They get married to a product, and they learn about a product, and the only way they can get validation from a prospect is if they're able to tell them about the product. And the irony is that most prospects aren't the least bit interested in any product you have. So what I usually try to coach salespeople to do is to make sure that you're selling the right thing. So my advice is to never sell an annuity. Here's the problem with selling an annuity. If you're approaching someone to sell an annuity, then you're not listening for buying opportunities. You're not listening for dominant buying motives the prospect has in other areas. Now, agents will come back to me and they'll say, well, that's because I don't sell Medicare supplements. Well, then you need to partner with somebody that does.
Right.
What you need, and my my thought is that you're probably selling the wrong thing. I don't think that salespeople in this industry should ever sell an annuity or a life insurance product or a health insurance product or a disability plan or a 401k or even stocks and bonds. I don't think you should sell that. I think you should sell the problem that people have.
Yeah.
So if I ask you a question, when you think about managing your healthcare expenses, are you more concerned about managing the cost of doctors, hospitals, prescriptions, recovering at home after a procedure, and not leaving a financial burden to your family?
Yeah.
Well, each one of those questions actually is solved by a product.
Yeah.
But I didn't mention a product, did I? Are you more
No.
concerned about managing the cost of doctors? Well, that's a health plan. Prescriptions, that's a prescription drug plan. Hospitalization, that's a health plan. Recovering home after a procedure, short-term care, long-term care product, are not a burden to your family. It's final expense, life insurance, or annuity. And their answer will tell me what directions to go with them.
Mm-hmm.
But my guess is that if I spent $60 on an annuity lead and I called you up and said, hey, you know, I see you were interested in annuities, can I give you some rates? Can I compare some rates with you? And their wife's waiting in the car for them to go to Target. They're gonna,
Yeah.
yeah, see, I'm not interested
Yeah.
because they're not
It's
interested in a damn annuity.
right. I'd like to tell this story because I think it's and again, this is something we used to do, and I don't see anybody doing it these days. But when I was in the first 3-4 years in the business, I had a friend of mine who was a Prudential agent.
When did you get in the business?
1975, I think. 74.
Were you a debit agent back then?
No. I was just a regular agent for Occidental Life, which later got purchased by Transamerica. But those days, you remember this, maybe none of the young guys or the older guys will remember this. And, your manager just says, here's the phone book and get yourself a good pair of shoes and a good mattress because you're going to need both of them. And here's the rate book and go to work and figure it out. And of course, necessity is the mother of invention. So you figure out how to do it. And there are a lot of inventive ways to do this business, which was the fun part of it, if you made some money. But I really want to share this because I think this is so important even today. And it just seems to elude everybody. Anyway, Prudential had, at that time, I was doing direct mail term insurance. And I'd get, people would fill out, I want 150 or I want 250, whatever. And they'd send a card back and you'd call them and say, okay, get the rates and go through all that. And that's how you'd sell. Well, Prudential had a postcard that said, you're interested, we're interested. And then it had, as I recall, 9 check boxes. And they were term life insurance, disability income, auto insurance, homeowners, umbrella liability, health insurance, just a variety of things. There are like 9 things on there. And they would get these things back in the mail, and sometimes there'd be just one thing checked. I need auto insurance. Or sometimes there'd be 2 or 3 things checked. But what it was, the agent would call, and unlike my term prospects where they may be getting term quotes from 3 or 4 agents, they would get this Prudential guy and they'd look at him as, well, this guy can handle all my insurance.
Right.
So if I like him, I'm going to be doing business with him for a long time. But more importantly, the agent, it was so easy for the agent because the agent would call up and say, hey, I got your card back. I see that you're interested in auto and homeowners, or I see that you're interested in life insurance or disability income or whatever it might be. And so the prospect, of course, says, yeah, I filled out the card. I checked the things that I'm interested in. And now you're calling me about what I'm interested in, as opposed to so many agents and advisors I talk to, whether they're using the phone or they're using seminars or they're using direct mail or advertising. It's always, when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So, they're out there and say, well, this annuity is the greatest thing. Is, well, I'm not interested in annuity. Okay, next. They go on to somebody else. They say, no, wait a minute. That person's interested in something, and you're trying to force them to buy what you want to sell. And I use the analogy with a liquor store. It would be like having a liquor store, and somebody comes in and says, hey, where's your Budweiser? We don't carry Budweiser. Go down the street to another liquor store. Why would you do that? No, you go into a liquor store, they carry everything. Do you have rum? Yes, we have rum. Do you have liqueur? Yes, we have everything. You don't need to go anywhere else. We have it here. What do you want? That makes selling so much easier, don't you think?
Well, not only that, but I get in today's market, I get agents wanting to specialize in something. But I just had rotator muscle surgery on my shoulder 8 weeks ago, and the doctor's with Piedmont, and this might sound surprising. Some of you that watch this recording, you're going to be shocked. So prepare yourself. But Piedmont actually has doctors that do other things besides orthopedic surgery.
Right.
They have like heart doctors.
Yeah.
Like when I was going to have orthopedic surgery, like I have a heart doctor, right? But when I was going to have orthopedic surgery to fix my rotator muscle, I didn't pull out the yellow pages and look for a doctor with some other organization. I looked within Piedmont.
Right.
So
That's your loyalty is to Piedmont.
It's good to have a team.
Yeah.
And I think that consumers like the fact that they can work with a professional that has a team.
Absolutely.
So I tell financial advisors, I used to do this in Knoxville, Tennessee. I ran an agency office down there. And what I worked the senior market, sold mostly annuities, long-term care, life insurance, and Medicare supplements. And what I did is I would call attorneys and I would tell them, I want to get 15 minutes to come in and interview you. I work with a lot of senior clients, and I'm looking to add a new estate planning attorney to my team. And I want to get 15 minutes to kind of find out what your philosophy is. And attorneys would fall over themselves
right.
to meet with me.
Right.
And they would give me their form with the questions they ask and stuff. And let me tell you something, when I would sit down with a consumer and I would bring out my notebook and I would pull their form out with the attorney's name across the top of it, well, they sat up in their chair like, whoa, this guy's got a team.
Yeah, right.
And the attorney didn't know that. He didn't know that, I ran an agency office for this insurance company and had 8 agents, and we were out hawking products. He didn't know that.
Yeah.
And so he vied for my business, and I would give him referrals. And I had 2 conditions on the referrals that I would give him. Well, one of the conditions is that whatever recommendations I made to the consumer, he would let me know if there was a problem with it before he let them know. Because why would I make the recommendation if he's not going to back it up, right? I mean, how stupid would that be?
Right.
And the second thing is that he didn't refer them to anybody else for other insurance needs. He did through me. Those were my 2 conditions on it. I thought they were very fair.
Well, of course.
I tell financial advisors all the time, get yourself a team together. You don't want to sell MedSups. There's a million MedSups out there that would love the business. The other thing I used to do is I had P&C agents come to my office. In fact, I used to record my weekly training, sales meetings where we would do training. I was looking at one of them the other day when I was going through some videos. This is back in 2002, I think it was. But I used to network with P&C agents. They would come to my office and they would teach my agents how to do X-dating. Like how to get referrals. And I would go to the P&C agent's office and I would teach his agents how to refer health insurance because they didn't do health insurance. And we had an understanding. We wouldn't push any products that they, like if you're from State Farm, we wouldn't push any products State Farm in. Right. And when you come into our house, you don't push any products that we have. Right. And the last thing our agent, and this is the script almost verbatim, the last thing the agent would say is, by the way, if I could increase your benefits or lower your cost of your car insurance or homeowners insurance, what interest would you have in comparing rates?
Right.
And 40 to 60% of the time, people go, well, yeah, I would do that. And the agents say, well, I don't do that.
Right.
And they go, oh, okay, but I have a professional on my team who's an expert at that. Do you want me to have Dan call you?
Yeah.
And they go, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it was a perfect setup.
Yeah. There's another interest. This is a trend too, that is a reversal of an earlier trend that's probably 20 years old. And you mentioned the word, everybody wants to be a specialist. So, we talk about being a specialist, and it kind of goes back to medicine. You have a radiologist, you have an oncologist, you have a heart specialist, you have, because in the science community, the more we learn, the more there is to learn. So becoming a specialist is sort of required. If you're going to work on somebody's heart, you better know everything about it. And if you're going to know everything about hearts, you're going to have to, not study shoulders and brains and other things, right? Because you got to be a specialist. But the trend, even in healthcare, if you ask people, the research that's been done, they all want a singular source. They want a personal physician, and it's usually a general practitioner or an internist, but they want one person they have a relationship with. They can say, hey, doc, or sometimes they know them on a first name basis. Sometimes they live in the same neighborhood, but they want somebody that they can go to. They'll get a referral from that doctor, but they want one doctor who knows them personally, who understands them, who has their medical history, and will direct them to a specialist when necessary. Well, it turns out it's the same thing in the financial services. People want one person that they like, that they respect and they admire and that they trust. And that one person doesn't necessarily have to sell them stocks and bonds and EFTs and 401ks and pension plans and benefits and life insurance and estate plan. It doesn't need all that. Just, I want one person that can, the quarterback, who can direct traffic. It tells me, oh, you know what? You've got a small business and you got 15 employees. You should put in a 401k plan. I have a guy who's a 401 small company 401k specialist. I'm going to bring him in to do that. You may talk to him about, healthcare coverage. You say, you and your family, how do you feel about your healthcare coverage? Oh, it's overpriced. It's through our employer, but we pay for most of it. And you say, well, there are other alternatives. Would you like to look at some of those things? Yeah, anything. Because they like you and they trust you. Whatever advice you have, they're open to. Just like you said, when you used to say with the X dates, you say, oh, by the way, would you like a competitive quote on your auto or homeowners? Well, yeah, of course I would. If you can save me money because I like you. Yeah, give me more reasons to do business with you. And you say, well, I don't personally do that, but I have somebody on my staff that does that. The point is that and I'm going to let you embellish this a little bit, selling is all about relationships. And the better your relationships, the deeper your relationships, the more trust you have in your relationships. That's the one thing that precludes all long-term buying decisions, satisfactory buying decisions, is a trusted relationship. And so whatever it takes to get your foot in the door and be authentic and care about the prospect, that's the first step in developing a long-term relationship with that client that will lead to all sorts of business. And to your third point that you brought up in the beginning, we have three things. You're an insurance agent, you're a consumer, and you're a business owner. You need to think in terms of being a business owner. Again, using the liquor store analogy, you don't want to just open a liquor store and sell nothing but wine or sell nothing but beer. You go into a liquor store because it doesn't make sense. Maybe you can be the best beer person, but you're missing other opportunities and you're going to be sending business away if you are not able to satisfy your customers' needs for different products. So I'm going to turn that over to you in terms of how important developing the relationship is to selling anything.
But take your analogy, which is an insightful analogy about liquor stores. So I'll tell you three things that are interesting about liquor stores that are applicable to our industry. Maybe the fourth thing is that, back in the day, Johnny Walker and I used to meet at 8 at night to talk about the day. But the first thing, if you go to the liquor store and you take whatever you're buying up to the counter, you might also buy a bag of chips.
Right.
You might also buy some candy. You might buy some soda. So they have ancillary products in the store that are a good companion to what you're getting. And there are also things that you are more likely to buy because you're associated. It's called brand extension, right? Mm-hmm. So they extend the brand over to other products that you associate with eating or drinking or using with that particular product. So that's one thing. The second thing is, isn't it ironic that a lot of liquor stores have a drive-through now?
Yeah.
So you could get pulled over for drunk driving.
Yeah.
But stop by your drive-through liquor store and get your booze before you get pulled over.
Right. Yeah.
So what that says to you is they accommodate the way people want to buy. And then the third thing the liquor store does is the liquor store categorizes things. So in most liquor stores, if you go in the liquor store and you drink bourbon, they've got a section that says bourbon, and then they have all the different brands of bourbon.
Right.
So imagine that compared to any advisor or agent's website. So if you take a website, that website should be about the prospect.
Yes.
And what problems you can solve for the prospect. And the products are simply the method to solve that problem.
Right.
So if I go into a liquor store, which by the way is a destination store, most people that are driving down the street, like if my wife and I are going to the grocery store, I'm probably not going to impulsively say, oh, there's a liquor store. Let's stop and get a fifth of bourbon.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a liquor store, I'm going to the liquor store with the intention of buying liquor. That's
Right.
what I'm going to. It's a destination store. If they go to your website, that's a destination spot. They're
Yep.
probably not typing in, specials at Dairy Queen and popping up with a financial advisor's website.
Right.
So they're going to your website for a purpose. That website should talk about them. Just like the liquor store knows I'm coming in for a particular type of liquor, say
Right.
bourbon.
Right.
And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the sign on bourbon, and then I'll look at the different brands of it. But if I walk in the liquor store and there's a sign there with 47 different brands, I'm probably not going to look at 47 different brands because I might not drink, wine or brandy, or
Right.
I might be there for bourbon
Right.
or scotch or whatever it is. So if they go to your website, and I told a broker dealer this one time, I was doing a live event for them. I was training their call center people, and they brought in a bunch of other people, and they had some of their annuity team in there, and I think this ticked them off. But on their website, they promoted that they have over 50 carriers. And I told them an agent. Now I'm talking to the call center people who recruit agents in, right? That's their job, is recruiting agents. And I told them, agents don't give a crap how many carriers you have.
Yeah.
They carry which product. They care about which product consumers are buying today,
Right.
and how much commission they get. That's all they care about.
Right.
So when your website, you can tell them you got 50 carriers, but here's what you don't want them to do. You don't want them to sign up for 3 different carriers because it costs you a lot of money to get them onboarded with those carriers, and they never sell them.
Right.
And that's what they do. They market products to agents, and then agents sign up for the product and then never sell the damn product. So to your point about the liquor stores, the liquor store is kind of set up like a shoe store. You can analogize the same thing with shoe stores, right?
Yeah.
If a shoe store only sold, I'll tell you my age. If a shoe store only sold penny loafers,
Yeah.
right, they wouldn't do a lot of business because the only
Right.
people going in there would be looking for a penny loafer.
Right.
But if you go into a shoe store and they've got tennis shoes and dress shoes and boots, guess what else they sell in there? They sell socks and gloves
And belts and
belts and all kind of ancillary products in there.
Yeah.
So listen, I'm with you. I think you should be a specialist, but you should have a
Well,
team that can do anything.
Yeah, and you brought up the website as being like a destination. One of the biggest mistakes, and I talk to web developers all the time, and they all agree once they bring it to their attention, but most agents don't understand this. Because my background, and I follow all the research, is in words and how words are used and how they're interpreted. You can't go on your website. You can't put up a banner for annuities and life insurance and Medicare you can get away with, but disability income, long-term care. Nobody's looking for that. Like you said, they're looking for solutions to problems. And so we would use things like, instead of annuities, it's guaranteed lifetime income. People come to a website and they go, oh, I'm interested in guaranteed lifetime income.
Or what does that mean, right?
Yeah, well, they would know. They know it.
Click on it because they want to know what that means. What is guaranteed? What do you mean guaranteed? Forever?
Well, yeah, well, right. So they want the details, but they know what the word guaranteed is. They know what lifetime is, and they know what income is. Right. So they can surmise what that's about, and they can say, well, I'm interested in those 3 things. It's the same thing instead of using life insurance. Tax-free cash for your family. Oh, I don't know what that is, but I do want tax-free cash for my family. Or instead of long-term care, use the term nursing home care. Yes, I know long-term care is more than nursing home, but the words that people understand is nursing home. Yes, if I have to go into a nursing home, how am I going to pay for that? They know when when we all reach a certain age, you begin to think about those things. So that's a product like Prudential had on the card. Auto insurance. I know what that is. Homeowners insurance. I know what that is. So you have to use terms in your store, like you said, bourbon, scotch over here, wine, beer over here. You need to use terms that the consumer immediately understands. And that might make them curious, but it definitely tells them that you're offering something of value to them. They don't want an annuity. They don't want life insurance. They don't want long-term care. They want Medicare because they think it's free. But if you provide the information, they can go to that category and go, oh, I need to sign up for Medicare, or I need to change my Medicare. They understand those terms. So one of the things all of you can do out there is begin to use words that consumers want. They don't want life insurance. They don't want annuities. They do want guaranteed lifetime income. They do want an indexed savings account. Yes, I know compliance says you can't use the word savings account with an annuity. The point is that's what consumers want, and that's what they understand. So use terms on your website that people will immediately grasp and will not just say, oh, that's nice, he does this or he does that. Say, oh, that's what I want. So I'm going to click on that and I'm going to request more information.
Yeah, I mean, what I hear you saying is exactly the mistake that agents and advisors make. You need to use language that has a common understanding. So the reason you should never say health insurance, life insurance, or annuity is you don't know how they define what that is.
That's true.
I mean, they might have been listening to Fisher Investments, tell them, I will never sell an annuity. That moron. Pardon me.
Yeah, and then that's a really good point.
They have a different definition than you do of what an annuity is. But guaranteed lifetime income is a common definition. And that's the problem. Agents and advisors use terms and words that are common and familiar to them in the industry, but not common and familiar to the consumers. Like one of the phrases I teach agents and advisors all the time is ask the consumer, are you paying more than you wanted or more than you expected for whatever, for your life insurance?
Yeah.
Because you're going to get an answer. They're either paying more than they wanted or more than they expected. Not, I can save you money. 70%, Insight Media did a study a couple of years ago, and they said that 70% of consumers make a buying decision to solve a problem. Only 30% of consumers make a buying decision to gain something. So when you use phrases like I can save you money, you're only talking to 30% of that market.
Right.
Because only 30% of people are concerned with gaining something. 70% of people are concerned with buying something to solve a problem. So you have to help people solve a problem. That goes back to what I said earlier. Sell the right thing. And the right thing is the problems people have.
Yeah.
Now, another thing I wanted to go back to, if I could, and this is talking about being a specialist. I think, now this obviously doesn't apply to everybody, but I think one of the challenges that agents and advisors have in being a specialist, and the reason that they don't really see themselves having a team, is a lack of confidence, a lack of personal security, and either fear of failure or fear of success. So they're not aware. They're not like if I sell health insurance, maybe I'm not that familiar with the different kind of life insurance. If I sell life insurance, I'm not familiar with annuities. People that sell annuities, they think Medicare is really confusing. And so they don't want to get involved with it because it's out of their sphere. In their mind, when they look in the mirror, they see a highly trained licensed professional who's an expert at annuities. Mm-hmm. And they're afraid that if they broach anything else with the prospect, that the prospect won't see the person they see in the mirror. But the problem with that is what the prospect does see is the same thing your subconscious mind sees in the mirror, which is an insecure, non-confident salesperson that doesn't believe he could actually work in those other markets. He may couch it in, I don't want to get into all that. I don't want to, I'm making my money here, blah, blah. He may do all that kind of stuff. But having a team of people who are experts, I mean, one of the things that makes you look like a go-to person, like the person I want to go to, this is what I try to do. I try and be the type of person that agents come to me and say, hey, who's a good lead vendor for this type of lead? Who can I use to market, to do my website with? I want to be that type of expert where they come to me that I can refer them to other people. And that's what I think agents and advisors are a little bit afraid of, because they think they're a little bit out of their depth. But nobody expects you. Like I was at my just regular doctor about a month and a half ago for an annual checkup. And I mentioned that I was having rotator muscle surgery. It's about 2 months ago that I was having rotator muscle surgery. She's a general practitioner. She doesn't know anything about it. And all she asked me is, who's the doctor? I told her who the doctor was. Oh, he's really good.
Yeah.
She didn't try to delve into it, or well, make sure you ask him this. Or
Right.
She didn't do any of that kind of stuff. You don't have to be an expert in everything, but here's what you should be an expert in, and that is knowing the right people.
Yeah.
So, be known as someone who knows the right people. Be known as someone who knows the experts. And here's the ancillary benefit for you. The expert that you refer is going to teach you a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm going to talk to you about my client I'm referring you to before you go there. And then after you go there, you're going to talk to me about what your conversation was with them. And if you actually help them solve a problem, you're going to educate me on how and why you solve that problem. And if I'm smart, which I kind of am, I'm going to ask you, why'd you pick that product for them?
Right.
And I'm going to learn.
Right.
And you're going to become an unpaid consultant teaching me how to be more of an expert. And you should want the people that you refer into your network, you should want them to train you on how to look for the right prospects to refer to them. Right?
Yeah.
And by teaching you the right prospects to refer to them, you're teaching me how to better refine the prospects that I'm talking to. So my conversation becomes more in depth, it becomes more interesting to the prospect, and we uncover a lot more information. If you look at a profile prospect, so take a male turning 65. On average, his wife is going to be 62, 63, right? It's going to be a couple of years younger than him. Their oldest kid, so he's 65, she's 63. They've had health insurance for the last 30, 40 years. They've been paying for health insurance. Even if they've got group insurance, they're paying for dependent care, dependent coverage, right? And when he turns 65, 66, whatever it is, he's going to go off of his health insurance and get on Medicare. And when he does that, his wife's going to need her own standalone health plan. Now, all of a sudden, you're in the senior market and the underage market.
Mm-hmm.
Now, all of a sudden, you're into health insurance, Medicare, and you're into health insurance. But let's follow it a little bit deeper. His oldest children, their oldest child is going to be about 40 or 45 years old. That person's married with 2 or 3 kids, mid-level job. Maybe he's in a second career, and they've got their dominant buying motives. And their oldest child is going to be 20, 25 years old. Look at all the different markets that you leave money laying on the table.
Yeah.
You leave wallet share behind that you can work in. And the problems that each age group has are predictable. I call them predictable buying behaviors. We know exactly, if someone's 20 to 25 years old and gets married, we know exactly what they're going to go through their first 5 years. We know buying a house, buying a car, having a kid, getting a job. We know exactly what they're going to go through. When the 40, 45-year-olds, 50-year-olds kids go to college, we know exactly what's going to, everything's predictable.
Mm-hmm.
And so wouldn't it be smart to have an expert that can help people transition through each of these phases? Even to the point that 65-year-old's wife, who's 63, her mother and dad, if they're still alive, are probably in their 80s. So there's a whole cycle there that we can work through. And that's why I talk about, it's good to be a product expert, but it's better to be a human expert and understand
Exactly.
the life cycles people go through.
Exactly. You know, comment a little bit too. I don't know what your disposition is here, but let's say that you are an annuity guy, and you know, certainly people who buy annuities are in or around the age of 65. So they either are approaching Medicare age or they're in Medicare age, and they, you know, maybe look at other products or Medicare supplements. So if you have a relationship with a Medicare specialist, because that does require, just like annuities, it requires a lot of knowledge, very specific knowledge. And there are a lot of guys who do nothing but Medicare. And so you hook up with somebody in Medicare, you do annuities, you bring them in like a partner, let them do the Medicare, but they also have opportunities to sell annuities to their Medicare customers. They bring you in for that. Can you reciprocate that way? And I mean, how does that work? And from a practical standpoint, do people really, are they willing to share commissions, or are they willing to share clients?
I think that, so the short answer to that is, I think they're afraid to do that. And they're afraid for a couple of reasons. One of the reasons why I think they're afraid is they're afraid it's going to cost them business. So if I'm selling a Medicare supplement to somebody, what's the pivot for me to find out if you might be an annuity prospect? What's the pivot? So I almost have to teach you how to prospect in that market. And there's some very specific questions that you can ask. Maybe one of our other sessions we can go through that. I can kind of teach you how to prospect in that. But the other fear that salespeople have, and we'll talk about this later on too, but the other fear that salespeople have is they're afraid that if the prospect decides that's what they're interested in, they might not buy the Med Sup. Or if they're interested in life insurance instead of the health plan, or they're interested in annuity instead of life insurance, that they might lose business. In other words,
well, don't you close one before you?
Well, if you're smart, you do.
Yeah.
But you know, we're emotional. Human beings are emotional. Fear of loss is greater than the desire for gain. And
Yeah.
so agents are always worried, afraid of losing something that they don't have. But but the other side of that is, once you get a mindset that I'm an expert and I have a team of experts, then I'm going to do you the service of letting you know that I have experts who can handle those problems. And that begs the question, and this would be another thing we go through. That begs the question of the sales presentation. The sales presentation should not be about the product. It should be about the problem that people want to solve.
Exactly.
And within that list of questions, like the questions I ask when you think about managing your healthcare expenses, I can ask you 5 questions that tell me if we're going to package sell a short-term care product, a long-term care product, a life insurance product, an annuity product. If you want to leave a legacy to your family, maybe an annuity is a good fit. It's going to tell me if that might be a package on there. So learning how to ask questions that talk to the prospect about the things that matter most to them. And I like this saying, talk to your prospects about the things they use the most in the order they use those things. And when you talk to them about the things they use the most in the order they use those things, like I can go through your videos and I can actually categorize your videos by usage.
Yeah.
Right. So I might want home health care first, then short-term
exactly,
health care, and then long-term health care.
Right.
And so when I do that, I'm not going to send you a long-term care video. I'm going to send you the short-term, the home health care, the short-term care, and the long-term care. I'm going to drip market in over 3 weeks.
Right.
I'm going to build that up. And then you're going to tell me when I reach out to you and we talk, you're going to tell me which of the 3 videos you looked at, which one caused you the most concern.
Right.
And whichever one you name is probably the one you're concerned about.
Right.
If you tell me, well, I'm concerned about having home health care, why would I be trying to push long-term care on you? You just told me you're looking at home health care. If I tell you that you could have long-term care and home health care, then I'm packaging it together. That's my point about it. So again, it's being able. This goes back to, we started off this way, I'll end this way. You're 3 different people. You're a salesperson. You're a consumer. And what we hope to help you do, if you show up every week, is learn how to be a business person.
Yeah.
And for the last 15 minutes, we've talked about being a business person.
Yeah. No, I like that. So we've done our first hour. I think at least it was interesting to me. So I don't know if it was interesting to our audience. How do we want to, we definitely want to get some feedback from anybody out there who's watching us, and tell us what you like, what you didn't like, what you'd like us to do more of or less of. Anything else you want to add, Lloyd, before we close out?
Well, I thought we would do a couple of things. First of all, let's you and I hook up after this, and we'll kind of debrief it. But one of the things I'll do is if you go to lloydlofton.com and click on 15 minutes, I will donate up to an hour of my time to talk to you about anything if you just give me some feedback on what you learned from this today.
Wow, very
So
generous.
Anybody, as many people that want it, if you go to lloydlofton.com, click on 15 minutes, I'll donate up to an hour of my time. I'm not selling you anything. I'm not trying to find out what problem can help you solve. But I'll give you an hour of my time if you just kind of tell us 2 or 3 ideas that you got from this, or 2 or 3 different things you think we can help you do on our future shows.
That's a great idea. Very gracious offer. Thank you.
All right, Dan, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it. It was a good talk. You guys, make sure that you put your comments in here. If you're on YouTube, you want to subscribe so that you don't miss anytime we post this. If you're on the Facebook channel, put your comments in there. We'll gather all those comments up again. And Dan, right now we're going to do Friday at 11:30 next week, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's commit to that, and then you can just shut this off, and we can keep talking.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna put the events up. So we'll put the event out, and then you'll see every week the event will be posted on LinkedIn, and then you can schedule to come. So thanks a lot, guys.
Thank
We'll
you.
see you next time.